This is the last week of our Fall Enrichment program, and we have been on a 7-week journey of studying the ideas in the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Casey is one of our licensed Unity teachers. She is hosting a small group. I'm hosting 2 small groups. And I'd love to just have a conversation about what's come alive in our groups and in us as we've gone along. Does that sound good? Yes. All right. Well, Casey.
Yes, John.
We began with the idea in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of stop wasting your life and the 2-part approach. So in that idea, what came alive in you for that?
I have options.
You have options.
Right? I mean, don't often think of that. Not let them, let me is not my first thought. So I think just being introduced, and also it was 2 short chapters, and I'm just going to say this. The reminder outside of the book to come together as a group. There's something in it, and I love that we do this. And if you haven't, join a fall group. I just, keep it in your pipes because you hear so many different perspectives. And so studying as a community is just great, and I'm glad we do it. So,
thank you. Yeah, it's that community when we come together, here are the principles, put them into action, and then talk about how they relate to us and how they work in our lives. That's the daily practice. Managing stress and overcoming OPO, other people's opinions. I don't have any problem with this one.
The first thing I have to say, the quote that really got me, and people who know me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I might get a little, is, you're not broken. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, protect you. The problem is, it can't tell the difference between a real threat and an email from your boss. But just those words, you're not broken. It softened something within me. I talked about learning the patterns and the triggers, and the Let Them theory can help shift that. And for me, I think what became important was knowing what my intentions are, even going into it. Because when I can anchor to those intentions, it can kind of unhook, and then it can even, they talked about bringing compassion in, and I can't do that when I'm hooked and I'm getting triggered. So for me, it was like, okay, what is my intention? Just stop the roaring in my head. What's my intention? Go back to that. And how can I bring compassion in, whether it's for the other person or myself?
Yeah, that's so powerful. And what's interesting for me is that when I get hooked, right, or when we have that idea of fear of something in our lives, that really kind of closes me off from being able to be present. And what I learned from this chapter, one of the big things for me is that fear is my friend. That fear is not the problem. I think we couch a lot of our triggeredness in what we call fear. It's like, I got to get rid of my fear. But, fear is very helpful when there's actually something coming at me. But when we try to block out fear, then we're numbing ourselves. Fear is simply telling us that there's some belief that lies in the background behind it that we're hooked into. And it's that belief in me that create my triggers, that create my buttons. And once I realize that, the let me part of that is, let me unhook myself from my own beliefs. Let me release and let go of those beliefs and adopt something new and more healthy. So that was week 3. And the next week we had emotional reactions and ending comparisons.
I liked personally the quote that said, the more you practice listening to yourself, the louder your inner voice becomes. And again, it can be like a train track. It can be just roaring in my head, going down that train track of emotions. And, when I stop again, everyone in our group, and I'm sure everyone who is taking this, we're doing it for a reason. We're doing it to show up differently. For me, my words, to show up differently and more in sharing that light, talking about the light today and the love. I'm doing it because I want that to show more. I want to be different. But when I'm in, as Martha Creek would say, hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to what I go when that roaring happens. So that comparison, I liked the quote, how would you, I think it was a question you did, Reverend John Riley. How would you reframe someone else's success as evidence of possibility and not deficiency? This question opened up my own avenues. But instead of getting tunnel vision right? With that roaring and that comparison and that when I can reframe it and open it up more, wow, suddenly I have more avenues to go down. And then also, I think sometimes it's, do I really want it? Again, going back to the intent for me is constantly going back to, do I really want it? No. Then unhook. Unhook.
The biggest thing for me in this was ending comparisons. We go through life comparing ourselves to other people, other situations, other conditions, and we're looking outside of ourselves for our own good rather than realizing and being grateful for what we have and where we are, and the fact that we are breathing. You are being breathed by the allness of life, by the loving presence, by that energy, that force that's within us. And when we can shift from comparison, maybe through curiosity, I wonder why I'm comparing myself. I wonder why I'm hooked by this other person, or I'm hooked by their situation. Why am I listening to all of the, you should in my life? I listen to them, and then I really question, is it really something that's mine to own? Because there are a lot of, you shoulds in your life. Anybody have your shoulds in your life, people saying you should? Yes, we have those. And sometimes it's very intellectual, sometimes, it might be the right path, but until I'm in it with my heart, until it touches me from that perspective, I might have some pushback. So if I unhook myself from the shoulds, from the comparisons, then I'm free to be more of who I've come here to be. Free to allow myself to be present and allow my foibles, allow myself to have a brain freeze in the middle of the opening, allow myself to forget the words. It's okay.
Can I add something
Yes.
to that? Because I feel like a lot of times the shoulds come from within.
Yes.
It's my shoulding. And the one thing about what you said, again, is going within. And if I consciously choose, like sitting with yourself and is this mine? Is this mine to do or isn't it? And if I make a decision and it's kind of like there sometimes might still be a should attached, but when I stop to go, I am making this choice. Therefore, I'm accepting that should. I go back to intent. And I'm taking this on. It might not be what I want to do, but at least I'm walking into it knowing I am choosing it. And that helps take back my energy, which a lot of this is about, right? Focus.
And so it's stop shooting on ourselves and decide what is ours to do and what is ours to hold and to bring forward. In the next chapter, we talked about mastering adult friendship.
Okay, here's my quote. Friendships aren't failing, they're evolving. You're not losing people. You're making room for relationships that match who you are becoming. And I have to say, this one, I really like, she talked a lot about the seasons of friendship, and it allowed, I think sometimes I keep trying to make things fit, and then all kinds of sorts of things, talking about the shoulds and whatever happened. It's not good for, the relationship isn't good. I ain't giving my best. They're not getting it from me. And so just realizing that things change and evolve, and there's a season. There's a gentleness. It's okay. It's okay if things change.
There's a season, and every relationship has seasons. And it doesn't mean there's a beginning and an end, and that's it. There could be ups and downs in the relationship, and we choose what's important for us. My mom, who's 96, a lifelong friend that she met at age 14, who I call her my Aunt Claire, I think she's 94, so a couple years younger than my mom. Through that whole time, they have connected with each other because they chose to. Amongst the seasons, amongst the marriages and the divorces, amongst the kids' issues, amongst all of the things that happen in life, the choice was to continue to connect with each other and to do that with love. So how generous can we be with our friends and family? How generous can we be with our own thoughts, our own experiences, and our words so that we can move through all of those situations with that undercurrent of love within it? And then, last week, we talked about motivating others and supporting struggling people.
So, okay, here's the quote. You can't change people. But the moment you stop trying, you change everything about how you show up. Yeah. And I think, so that there was a lot of good stuff that came out of our discussion. Again, this is why I just love being a part of a group and learning from each other and growing with each other. They talked about assuming good intent, and that can be hard. I think being generous 50-50 on it, it can be a struggle when, again, about the triggers. But I love the reminder, don't jump to conclusions. I like even bringing on the past chapters about curiosity. But what was great, I think, a discussion that came up is talking about a loop that happened, right? Oh, well, we'll let them do that, and then we'll let me do this. But then we're back to, wait, no, I got to let them do that. And then if that means that, well, I got to let me do this. And it's kind of was a loop, like we couldn't make a complete thing in what to do. And someone asked the question, does that mean my let them wasn't sincere, right? When we're caught in the loop. And so I was grateful that happened because it was a work situation that happened. And I found myself in the loop. And I was angry, but I wanted to let them and let me then come to a higher place and remember why I did it. Remember me preaching about go back to your intent. I went back to my intent, and I still couldn't let it go. And what I realized was my let me wasn't sincere because I was angry. And I needed to say, I didn't need to do anything with it outwardly. I need to go, I'm really angry. I put a lot of effort into this, and I'm upset. And once I stopped trying to bubblegum and bring me someplace I wasn't ready to be, I unhooked. So that was, and because here's my other favorite quote, when someone is unwilling to catch the ball, you have to stop throwing it.
And that one might be hard for me. Anybody have a Labrador Retriever in their life? They never want to stop. Never. I had a black lab, his name was Kona, and he would go until he just collapsed. And he'd look at me and go, well, if you're going to pick it up, I'm going to get it. But how many of us are like that, right? How many of us are always reacting and responding to the needs and the requests and the things, always saying yes to something, always saying, okay, I've got to do this now, I've got to do that now, rather than saying no. This was one of the hardest parts of the book, and I think she left it to the end intentionally because we needed all that practice up front to be able to have some self-care enough to say no, that no is a complete sentence. When we're letting go of that other person, is that letting go and letting them truly letting go? Or is it just, okay, I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to let them, and I'm not going to connect anymore, which is a form of not letting them, right? That's another way that we disconnect and push people away. So how can I be present to all of that, even when the tomatoes are flying my way, still be present to my full self, still be present to my own sense of worth, my own sense of strength. And when I practice sourcing that from within, you might call it God within, the divine within, that spark that's within you, when I can source that sense of knowing that I'm worthy, knowing that I'm one, I'm a child of the divine, I'm a child of God, however you want to put it, when I can come from that place, I can be present to what is and not feel diminished by it. And still remind myself over and over again that I'm whole, I'm safe, and I'm well. That brings us to our final set of chapters, and it's around choosing love and new beginnings. Mel talks about it with the idea, she begins with the idea of really looking for love, looking for connection, looking for, partnership and things outside of us. And the first chapter she talks about this is the idea of let them show you who they are. Let them show you who they are. When we begin to know someone, there's a certain persona that comes out, yes? We show up with a certain part of ourselves. And then stress happens. And struggles happen. So let them show up when they're struggling. Let them show up when they're at peace. Let them show up when they're joyful. Let them show up when they're angry. And you will see all of the different ways in which they show up. Now, look in the mirror. How do I show up when I'm angry? How do I show up when I'm struggling? When I'm joyful? When I'm fearful? How do I show up? Because when I can see how I show up, I realize that I'm not always my full self the whole time either. Just acknowledging this is how I show up when I'm frustrated gives me a lot of information about how I can be with someone else who is struggling and how they're showing up. I can have more compassion for them. I can see more of where they're coming from and get more curious and not take it on for myself, not get enmeshed in their struggle. Yes?
My Reverend John, would that be we're human and divine, and so are other people, human and divine?
It's a true story, so I've heard. Are you guys human? Are you divine? Yes, we're both. And so when we can look at how people show up, we can be present to it. Can you read the quote from Mel?
Sure. You are supposed to be yourself and trust that if you show up as your full self, the person that is looking to be with someone as awesome as you can actually find you. I love it. We found each other.
So show up as yourself. Show up as your true self. What about at work?
I think that's for one of them.
What about at the grocery store? What about at the family reunion? What about with those people who, you're struggling with? Especially them. How can you show up as yourself? At work sometimes we have a culture at work, yes? And so sometimes it may not be appropriate for you to stop in the middle of the meeting and say, excuse me, I have to meditate and practice affirmative prayer. We know that we are allowing ourselves to be present to what is internally and still be a part of the culture. And that's the same with any friendship group. If this is the culture of the friendship group and I still want to be in it, can I be in it and still be my full self? And how can I honor the culture if I need to honor the culture? And is that okay for me? Or is it time for me to let go?
Reverend John, I also feel like bringing this book into Unity Palo Alto and with our 5 principles, it's a really great melding of everything because just as we talk about doing that meditation, making that time to go within, that's a muscle we build. And so when I'm at work and I get triggered, but I've been doing my practice, there are times that because of the 5 principles I practice, and with this let them theory, I get that space instead of a knee-jerk reaction. I can get the space. And what I've learned, actually, I have to say, you're my master teacher on this, is that in an instant, it can be different.
Yeah.
So I love that we brought this together and melded the 5 principles because it fits right in.
Thank you, Casey. I was a little worried there when you said, I'm your master teacher, because all those people who are triggering you, they're your master teachers. I thought that's where she was going.
That too.
Yep. Next chapter, hey, how about that? How to take your relationship to the next level. A relationship is like water. It's like a creek running water. Now, when I was a kid, I think I was 14 at the time, I took my big, real serious backpacking trip up in the Sierras, and I learned at a higher level how to capture water and put it in a container and how to, when your canteen is empty. And the one thing that we notice is that you can't capture water with a closed fist, can you? Anybody? You can't capture it. What do you need to do? You have to hold it like this. That's what a relationship is like. When you're holding on to a relationship like this, you have to be this way, you can't do that, I have to be right. It's not authentic being in that relationship. When we're trying to control somebody else, we're trying to force someone else, manipulate someone else, we have to hold our relationships and each other with open hands and allow ourselves to flow. Allow ourselves to be who we are, and then decide what's really important for me. If I have a value that's really important that's being crossed, or a boundary that's being crossed, then I need to decide and stand up for that and hold that boundary, hold that container. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we need to let go of the need to be right, to need to be the expert, the need to find our value in the relationship based on what other people think of me, and allow yourself to be more peaceful, more joyful, and the connection will flow.
Would you like a quote?
Yes, please.
Okay. Here's another one that gets me. The greatest gift you can give to someone you love is the freedom to be exactly who they are. And the same freedom for yourself.
Be generous with your thoughts. Be generous with your words and your actions. Be generous with allowing them to be them and allowing you to be you. How every ending is a beautiful beginning. No, it's true that every ending is a beginning for something else. Because we're always growing, we're always learning, and we're always shifting. That new beginning starts every day. Every day we wake up, we have the opportunity to have a new beginning. Now, we may grow apart in our relationships, and we may grow together. There may be parts of us that grow together and parts of us that need some freedom. And so allowing our parts to grow in our own direction and being open, transparent, and honest about that is the best way to have this experience of relationship, I think, with one another. So deciding what's more important for you and where can I be more generous for others.
Would you like a quote?
Yes, please.
Every time you let go of what no longer serves you, you are not losing something. You're becoming someone new. If I had to wrap up one thing, one word, of what this program gave me or what I was moving towards, I should say, the one word would be sovereignty. Coming from within, to live from my highest self. Again, that's why we're here. That's why we come, we sit our butts, we want to be higher, live from a higher place. So the one word is sovereignty for me.
Choosing love. Every time we choose love, it's a new beginning. Every time we choose that inner divine love, it's a new beginning for us. And every day we have the opportunity to choose it over and over and over again. There will be struggles. There will be situations. There will be master teachers out there pushing our buttons. But you have sovereignty over you. You are spiritually powerful, strong, open, receptive, loving, generous beings. Yes? You are spiritually strong, powerful, open, receptive, loving, generous beings.
Can we go like strong, powerful?
I'm going to let you.
Thank you. Join me. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to let all of you, if you choose.
If you choose.
We are spiritually powerful.
Yes.
We are spiritually strong.
Yes.
We are receptive.
Yes.
Open.
Yes.
Loving.
Yes.
And a generous being. And so it is.
And so it is. Whew.
Let's move to our affirmation. I'm going to read our affirmation, and again, with that same enthusiasm and gusto, allow these words to lift you up, for this is who you are. I release my limiting thoughts and habits. I am open in the flow of love. I stand in my spiritual power. I express my full self. Let's take this into our time of meditation and affirmative prayer.